So let's be real, everyone that's subscribed to this channel over the past 8 years has done so for Summoner's War content. However, Summoner's War itself is 8 years old at this point. A lot of people are tired of it. A lot of people have already left the game, are looking for greener pastures. They miss the Summoner's War experience, but they don't know where to find it. So today we are going to go over all of the different Summoner's War alternatives. Some of them are redundant because everyone knows about them. Some of them have come and gone and have already closed their servers, but a lot of them are still up. So let's get it started. So as I mentioned, there are some really obvious ones. We can't have a discussion about mobile gacha turn-based RPGs without discussing Raid Shadow Legends. It is something that was at one point when it first came out was completely impossible to avoid if you were anywhere on the internet. Everyone was sponsored and there was ads everywhere. There was pre-roll ads, there was banner ads, there was pop-ups, there was everything was everywhere for Raid Shadow Legends. There's pros to Raid, there's cons to Raid. I actually did a community post. I asked you guys what different Summoner's War style games you'd played and enjoyed in the past, and there was a lot of people that actually mentioned Raid, but I think it's mostly because there are some Summoner's War streamers that were sponsored or even still sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. So that's, I think, one of the reasons that a lot of people switched from Summoner's War to Raid is just because so many sponsored promos, they eventually tried it out. There's pros and cons to Raid. Say what you will about the game in general, but one of the things that I do appreciate about them is even after the initial ad push, which was just everywhere on the internet, they did continue to put out content every so often, like on a pretty regular basis. Like they still have content coming out all the time in that game. They still trying to promote the game to people. So say what you will. Some people not a fan of Raid. Some people are a fan of Raid, but I do applaud them for putting out content. I think they put out content faster and more than any other gacha mobile RPG. But that leads us to the next one. Next on the list of super obvious ones, Epic 7. This is basically the polar opposite of Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is dark fantasy, it's got high polygon models, it's got a lot of demonic and a lot of evil and gross looking characters. Epic 7 has a lot of cutesy, 2D, anime, waifu characters. It's very, very different in terms of art style. It is still, I mean, they're both very similar in terms of mechanics. I would say that Epic 7 is a little bit better at being more free-to-play friendly, and then also a little bit better at listening to community feedback as well. But I'm sure a lot of people are already familiar with Epic 7. Next up is Dislight. This is a game that just came out a couple months ago. This is a vertical format. It's very hip. It's trying to be very trendy. Vertical format. There's a lot of music integration into it. There is a lot of actual story in the game. Well, I shouldn't say story versus, like, Epic 7 has a lot of story as well. I don't remember Raid Shadow Legends having much of story. Maybe I just missed it. But Dislight is something that is, I think that Dislight has a decent amount of staying power. I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to like things like Genshin, but it does have a decent amount of staying power. I would expect Dislight to be around for at least a few years. Next up, I want to give a shout out to a couple games that are no longer with us, but had some serious potential and could have competed with Summoner's War if they just avoided some very major pitfalls that they fell into. The first one is Dungeon Hunter Champions. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Many of you that have only started playing Summoner's War in the past few years are completely oblivious to Dungeon Hunter Champions. This one, they had so much going right for them. So many people downloaded the game. So many people were excited about the game. So many people started playing the game. They couldn't avoid the drama. It was just, there was gifting LD5 scandals, and then there was other drama, and there's other scandals, and then they were getting arguments with content creators, and it was just like they couldn't. Gameloft has a, this is just consistency with Gameloft. Like, they keep shooting themselves in the foot. They keep making games that are visually beautiful, and then when it comes to actually running the games and managing the games, like, whoever's in charge at Gameloft makes some terrible decisions. I don't know, the art team is fantastic, but they make some terrible decisions at that company. Dungeon Hunter Champions, I think you can still download the game, but the game is dead. Next up on the list of dead games is Might and Magic Elemental Guardians. Some of you, again, from back in the day, may be familiar with this, but a lot of new Summoner's War players are not, or from the past couple years anyway, are not familiar with this game at all. This is another dead game, of course. I think one of the big things that that stopped this from being successful is, number one, there wasn't enough impact on anything you did. And then number 2 was kind of just like a watered down, like, what do you do that's different or better than Summoner's War? Why would people choose Might and Magic Elemental Guardians over Summoner's War? And it was really just, it wasn't bad. It was just not at the same level as Summoner's War. And ultimately, that's what did it in. That's what led to its demise. Next on the list of dead games ripe with controversy, Calibria Crystal Guardians. This one, they were given a golden ticket to succeed without spending $1 million on publicity and marketing, and they blew it. If you think that I'm going to take ComToUs side on this one. If you think that Summoner's War has like pay-to-win events and things like that, imagine an event where you had to spend, I think it was $1,200 to actually do everything in the event, because you had to buy packs, and then you got points from buying packs, and the points go towards the event. So you had to actually spend, I think it was, it's been a long time. Correct me if I'm wrong on the actual number, but it was an excessive number to actually complete the event. It was like, I think it was 1,200, was it 900? Something like that. Fun fact, my girlfriend didn't know who I was at the time. A lot of the people from her Summoner's War guild, when Calibria came out, switched to Calibria, and she hated me at first. She hated me when Calibria Crystal Guardians came out, because all of her guildmates switched to playing Calibria, and she was like, I don't know who this Jubago guy is, but I don't like him. This one I don't have a lot of personal experience with. I think we did one video on it on the other gaming channel, but some people have much more experience than I do. Pocket Era. This is a game. This wasn't a real Pokemon game. It was basically Summoner's War, and they stick Pokemon characters in it, and they're like, let's see how long it takes before we get caught and we get shut down. And then a lot of these, because they do this all the time. Not this specific company, but all these companies take Pokemon assets, put them in other RPG games, and call them something else, and then see how long it takes for them to get shut down, how much money they can make before they get shut down, and then they just change the name. So they keep popping back up with different names. Who knows if Pocket Era is back under a different name? We have to download a random APK file from a random website. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But this is another game that got shut. There's a lot of Pokemon games that got shut. The fake Pokemon games that got shut down. I actually caved with this one. I do have a rule. I have a personal rule where I don't play other ComToUs games because it's ComToUs. So I actually did, when Skylanders Ring of Heroes had the end of service notification, I did download a couple weeks before the game ceased to exist. I was like, let me see what I was missing. Let me see, not that I was missing. I'm glad I didn't play it, but it was actually not as bad as, it wasn't that bad. It's just ComToUs, right? It's Skylanders, Spyro the Dragon. It's just ComToUs. I didn't want to play another ComToUs game. That's how a lot of us feel. And we're like, with the 8 years of this, 8 years of Summoner's War, we don't want to play any more ComToUs games. I'm fine. You do your other games. I'm just not going to play them. But Skylanders Ring of Heroes, very similar to Summoner's War. It wasn't as robust in terms of mechanics. It was different. They actually redid the entire game at one point. They shut it down. They completely redid it, and then they brought it back up, and then they even refunded. I don't know if they didn't refund purchases, but they gave like a certain amount of in-game credit for purchases people made before they did that. So I think that, I mean, they tried to make that game work. There's also a collaborative effort. So I think that what is it, Activision, who had the IP for Skylanders, I don't think they were very happy with the numbers that produced. So as great as nostalgia is, I'm sure a lot of you are actually want to know what is in service currently that you can actually play. Although you can play Raid Shadow Legends, Dislight, and Epic 7, but the last 5 that we discussed are not in service. So the first one that I want to talk about that is currently in service is Figure Fantasy. This has a little bit of idle mechanics in there as well. Some of these games have a little bit more of like the tactics and like the idle and like this and that, but it's for the most part a gacha collector that you gear up and all kinds of things. So Figure Fantasy, like the thing with this game specifically is it's kind of like a Toy Story thing. It's like if Summoner's War meets Toy Story. I could just go on and say if Summoner's War meets this, if Summoner's War meets that. Cookie Run Kingdom is Summoner's War meets Santa's Workshop of Gingerbread Cookies. We'll discuss Cookie Run Kingdom next, but Figure Fantasy, yeah, it's basically little action, not action figures. It's like little collectible figures in the real world, but yet they're not in the real world, but in the game they're like supposed to be the real, whatever you see on the screen, you see what it is. It's Figure Fantasy. We already teased this one when we were talking about Figure Fantasy. Before I forget, Figure Fantasy actually has a lot of collabs that they do. I was surprised to see how many collabs they actually did with other IPs. Like that time I got reincarnated as a slime, they did that. They did a whole bunch of other collabs as well. So that's maybe something interesting to check out. But Cookie Run Kingdom, this is a game that I was surprised. They did do a lot, the big advertising push. That's one of the reasons that there was so many people playing this. But I was surprised to also see the amount of just buzz and people playing it by word of mouth, this game, and how many people were actually downloading it and playing it like long term. So Cookie Run Kingdom, this was kind of a surprise to me that this game has done so well. Next one on the screen is called Summon Age. This is kind of, it's again more idle mechanics, because any game that's come out in the past couple of years is like, hey, let's put idle mechanics in because people don't want to actually play the game. So there's so many with idle mechanics, but this is basically, this is like Summoner's War light. There's not as robust, not as complex. There's a lot of things missing from it in like trying to compare this to Summoner's War, but there's a lot of games on this list are not as complex or robust as Summoner's War. That's one of the big advantages that Summoner's War has, is it's had 8 years to develop all of this stuff, and it has so many monsters, and there's so much different combinations of things and different moves and different skills and buffs and debuffs and all this stuff. So this is a very, like, this would be a very watered down version, but so this next one is controversial because people think that it's like Summoner's War, but I personally do not think that it's like Summoner's War. This is Kingdom of Heroes. It is a tactics style experience. It is not really a Summoner's War style turn-based RPG experience. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I actually really like the game. I did do a video on this on the Other Gaming channel a while back. I didn't do any follow-up videos because it is a game that's been out for a while. Actually, it's still out. It's been out for a while. It's a solid gameplay experience. However, generally, if YouTubers are trying to grow an audience, it's not really effective to play games that have been around for years. Even if the games are good, you're really not going to be able to break into that scene. Generally speaking, for the most part, not going to be able to break into that scene. There are some outliers, but this next game is called Magnum Quest. This is another thing that we did on this Other Gaming channel, of course, because a lot of these we do like first impressions on the Other Gaming channel. So this is a game, I don't want to say it's super like Summoner's War. I think that, in my opinion, it is more like if Raid Shadow Legends went a little bit more idle mechanics. That's kind of where I see Magnum Quest as being. This kind of like, it's still getting updates. It's still what is the last update that it actually had? Guild matches, Dwarven Mines, Hero from Abyss Faction, New World event. This is like 3 weeks ago, so it's still getting updates in this game, which is always a good sign. It's just not very Summoners. It's more like Raid Shadow Legends meets idle RPG. Solid graphics though. This next one is a game we really did not cover. I don't think we covered this at all on this second channel. We usually do a lot of first impressions for a lot of these, but this one we did not cover at all. It's called Exos Heroes. It is a beautiful looking game. I think that the situation just when this game first came out and I would have done a first impressions on it, there was probably some whole bunch of other stuff going on in like Summoner's War or in other games or like whatever. We're probably just doing a whole bunch of things, or maybe I was moving. Who knows what it is? But Exos Heroes, this is a game we should have covered more, honestly, because it is visually very appealing. It's less chibi than Summoner's War, but it is a nice looking game. It's still getting updates fairly regularly. This next one is called Lord of Heroes Mobile. This, I think, suffered from the same fate we did. I don't think we did a first impressions on this one either. I think maybe it came out the same period of time that Exos Heroes did, and we were like, again, we were so busy doing other stuff. Another very beautiful looking turn-based game that really I wish we would have played some more of. I think if I recall correctly, there was some kind of drama about like they were banning people for using emulators, and then people flipped out and they were like, we just won't play your game then, and then they were like, by the way, just kidding, you can use emulators on it. Was this game, or was this another game and I'm just thinking of this game? I don't know. Let me know if you know, if you've played it, if you've experienced it. Let me know in the comments. Up next, we have a game called Age of Magic. This is a game that we did. Was it this channel? Was it the other channel? It was probably the other channel, right? It's usually the other channel at this point. This was a game that we did a video on a while back. I'm surprised. This is still being updated. The last update looks like it was a week ago, but I am surprised that this one lasted longer than Might and Magic Elemental Guardians. because I talked to the people from Might and Magic Elemental Guardians, they seem like they wanted to make a good, good product, a good game, and have it out for a long time. And it didn't work out like that. It just didn't work out like that. But this one is still around. Age of Magic. I wanted to like this game so bad. I gave this game a chance. It was just so... it's like a cel-shaded Disney gacha RPG. I was like, this is going to be a good one. Game comes out, play it. Within a few hours, it was extremely obvious that the game wanted $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 from the players. And I'm like, looking at it, I'm like, doing the math in my head. I'm like, this not like it's a shard collector, which should already give you as much information as many of you will need. But it is just, it was going to be so expensive. I was like, this is not, I can't afford to play this and also live somewhere. So we had to pass on Disney Sorcerer's Arena. It is similar to Summoner's War in some aspects, but I personally think it is all these games can be very expensive. So I don't know why I'm complaining about this one specifically, but that is why I did not play this one more. Next up, in the same vein of Disney Sorcerer's Arena, we have Disney Mirvers. This is somewhat new to global release. It was released overseas years ago because, of course, all these things are released overseas years ago, and then they come to global. They're released in Asia, and then they come to global like 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, whatever they feel like it, right? So Disney Mirvers, it is a newer game. It seems less pay to win. I just looked at it again. This is one of those ones that I looked at. I was like, it seems like I'm going to have to either choose between this or living situation. I could live in a box and be top of PvP in this game. So I had to do a pass on this one. We did do a video on it on the second channel. We did a video. This is the same company. This is Kabam Games. This is the same company that did That's the Marvel Contest of Champions. This is the same company that did... What did you think I was trying to say? This is the same company that did MCOC, Marvel Contest of Champions. Everyone thought that, right? At this point, we're kind of getting a little bit more into the shard collectors, though, and I really don't want to get into those and start promoting those. There's kind of like, there's Summoner's War E, but they're turn-based RPGs, but they're very much more expensive than... Because in Summoner's War, you could just get, like, you could just randomly get an LD5. Many people don't randomly get LD5s, right? Obviously. But you can just randomly get one of those and get crazy lucky. Or you could get, like, you could summon a mystical scroll, you can get an Oliver, right? Whereas in these shard collector games, like, these things are designed specifically so nobody has access to the premium stuff unless you spend for the extra resources. So it's kind of a must spend situation. So I don't really want to promote shard collectors too much, like Marvel Strike Force or Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes or Lego Legacy, even though I played that game for way too long. I don't want to promote those because those games are like a guaranteed money sink. There's not really you can be free to play if you just want all of the garbage units. So this is a game that is very much the opposite of that. This is very much in line with Summoner's War. They're also, I'm surprised they're still around, Monster Super League. This is a game that so many people, this was like beloved to people from years ago. It's similar to Summoner's War, but also it's not as robust, as graphically intense, as much crazy PvP, RTA action, violent ruins, hashtag esports as Summoner's War. But this is an enjoyable, like, Summoner's War meets Pokemon kind of experience, and a lot of casual players really enjoyed Monster Super League. That's one of the things that I want to mention about this. I don't think they have, like, any advertising budget, so I'm surprised that they stayed around so long, but I think that just the people that enjoy the game wanted to support them throughout the years, and that's one of the reasons that I guess that they stayed around. I was very surprised to know that they're still around. Awakened Chaos Era. I was so excited about this game. I was hyping this up like no tomorrow. I played the closed beta. It looks good. It felt good. It played good. It felt like there was a lot of effort being put into actually making the game a polished experience, a good gameplay experience. The game launched on global. There really wasn't any issues. Maybe there was like little issues here and there, but there wasn't any big catastrophic drama or anything. The main issue for me, it also looked like it was going to be a massive competitor to Raid Shadow Legends, but there's a very different mentality between Raid Shadow Legends and Awakened Chaos Era. The big thing for me of why didn't continue playing it. Why I was like, I saw the red flag. There was a lot of little red flags, and then the biggest red flag was that the developers did not want to market the game. They didn't want to market or advertise or anything. They're like, we're just gonna steal the whales from Raid Shadow Legends. We don't care if anyone else plays the game. We just want the whales from Raid Shadow Legends, and then if it gets a little word of mouth, that's fine. I'm like, you put all this effort into the game and you're just going for, that's kind of the thing now nowadays with these mobile gacha games, is like they're just trying to target the whales. They don't care about the rest of the community. They don't care about the free-to-play players. They don't care about anything. They don't care about the budget, like $20 a month, $100 a month, or anything. They're like, no, we want people to spend $1,000, $5,000 a month. We want the whales. We want the big giant spenders. Everyone else we don't really care too much about, which is kind of a sad. It's kind of sad, but I mean, that's just how it is. They don't want to spend marketing dollars on attracting players that are not going to spend money on the game. So right now, all these mobile game developers this is going to be an issue for people that are starting YouTube channels in the future. Trying to do mobile games is like they're not going to have a large audience to work with, because these mobile game developers do not want to spend money on on attracting a large audience if the large audience is not spending a bunch of money. So that's why I didn't continue playing Awaken Chaos Era, but it is still a nicely polished game. I don't know if there's other issues that have surfaced after that, though. Speaking of blasts from the past and games that I was surprised to find out are still in existence, this one, for those of you that have been with us from the very beginning, this is going to be a little bit of nostalgia, and it is still actually around because it just got an update with Sanrio Hello Kitty characters in the game, Onmyoji. This is a game that it's like the Onmyoji characters from Summoner's War, right? Like the Onmyojis. It is, because those are from mythology. Those are from folklore. So it is like all about like the death and the spirit world and things like that. It is from ancient Asian cultures. Onmyoji came out years ago. I don't want you guys being like, oh, Onmyoji, they stole it from the Onmyojis and Summoners World. Like, no, they're both from mythology. The Onmyoji came out years and years ago. It was super huge in China. It didn't really do very good globally. Well, there's a couple of reasons it didn't do good globally, but it's still around. The point is that it's still around. It's got Hello Kitty characters in it. For whatever reason, it just got updated a couple weeks ago. And they also have a League of Legends style game. They have like what is it called? A MOBA. Yeah, I was surprised. I wasn't so surprised to say that was a surprise from years ago, but I'm surprised that Onmyoji is still actually around. This final one, most of you don't know about, but this is one of my favorite Summoners War style games of all time. If you're Brazilian, you already know all about this, but many, many, many other people do not know what this game is. Saint Seiya Awakening Knights of the Zodiac. First off, I played this game, I got into it, I played it some more, I got into it. They do some mechanics in their PvP, real-time PvP, that I think Comtuas should implement in Summoners War. You can basically rent. You can do real-time PvP. You can rent out monsters from the shop. They change weekly, and then you can use those monsters for the week. Imagine if you could use a ragdoll in RTA. Do some RTA for the week, get some points, rent a ragdoll to use in your matches. Rent a Tianlang to use in your matches. If you don't have Sierra, rent a Sierra. You don't have a Shizuka, rent a Shizuka. I don't have a Shizuka. Can you tell? Not only does this game have some things that I think Comtuas should creatively adopt for themselves. Wow, I'm bad at winking. I mean steal. They should steal some of these things for themselves for Summoners War. Also, I think the storyline is incredible. I enjoyed this game so much that I went out and I did not see Saint Seiya when I was a kid. So I actually went and I started watching the Saint Seiya series. There's a mini series of Saint Seiya on, I think it was Netflix. So that's how much I enjoyed the game. And so many people don't know what this game is. Saint Seiya Awakening Knights of the Zodiac. Fantastic game. I really enjoyed it, but it's not huge in the North American market. It's some people, but it's mainly a South American thing, I think. And Asia, right? So South America and Asia. So I'm like, nobody's gonna watch me play it. So there you go. Those are all the games. Well, maybe not all the games. There's still many, 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 many more that are similar to Summoners War. We could go on forever. Probably could go on forever, especially how I talk. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe you will see one of these games that interests you. Hope you guys have a great day. I will see you as always in the next one.